Hey, okay, so um we're going to talk about a book series and oh gosh, when I was looking through my boxes to find all the books for this that I have, I found my Indiana Jones book series. Now, I know that I bought all the books in that series, 12 altogether, and there's three missing, and I'm having a little bit of a freak out right now. Like, where's those three books? So, because they're out of print now. So, where am I going to find those three books? And I mean, I read those books quite a bit. There's one in particular that I read a lot. So, and I have that one, but where did those three go? I didn't give it anyway. That's not the series that I'm going to talk about here. No. No. So, how I'm going to break this down is because first, I want to talk about the author, and then we're going to talk about the series itself. Because this author is, he's hilarious. So, we're going to talk about first the author. Robert Lynn Asprin. He was born June 28th, 1946. He passed away May 22nd, 2008. He died of heart failure. This is and it's too bad because this his humor is fantastic. He's a science fiction fantasy author. And now the first book that he wrote, The Cold Cash War, uh, it says it was released in 1977 and it was actually published in an issue of Analog magazine, which is it still yeah, it's still going. Um, so the story of Cold Cash War, it takes place in a dystopian near future in which enormous corporate cartels compete in the military as well as economic spheres. I want to say because of the fact, because I'm getting ahead of myself. So Robert Aspirin was in the military from 1965 through 1966. He served in the military. Okay. And so I have a feeling that this, um, now I can only speculate, that this was the effects of his military career. It's funny because earlier this evening, when I was talking to my mom, we were talking about authors and how no matter how much you try to take away from a a book or a novel or anything, I hate to be that person, but like what Rings of Power is doing to Tolkien's work, you can't destroy it because Tolkien put his own stamp on it. Everybody knows that Two Towers is his experience in Psalm. You know, that's what these stories are. There are stories that I have written to help me get through a situation. You know, that's how a writer is. When they can't communicate to somebody, they write. That's what poetry is. That's short stories, poetry, what have you. That's how it works. Um, so you can try, but you're not the creator. So, um, but you know, my theory is that the Cold Cash War, uh, was his experience. Just a theory. It's not confirmed. Um, Now, a little more on him since I'm flip-flopping here. I didn't mean to do that. He was part of the Society for Creative Acronyms, and he had the name Yang the Nauseating. He also co-initiated the Society of Great Dark Horde during 1971. Um, he was also the initiator and an influential member of the Dossier Irregulars. It doesn't say what year. I'm guessing in the 70s. Um, Now he had a cartoon slideshow called The Capture. And in 1976, he was nominated for the Hugo Award for Best Dramatic Presentation because of that slideshow. It was drawn by Phil Foglio, and I'm sorry if I say that incorrectly. Now, he and Phil Foglio worked together over the years. You'll see his name quite a bit alongside Robert Asprin's work. So, yeah, his first book was released in 1977. And then there was Thieves' World is the next one that is mentioned. And this was actually what does it say? Um, what was it that I saw? Because it was it's a shared world fantasy series created by Robert Lynn Asprin in 1978. The original series comprised of 12 anthologies, including stories by science fiction and fantasy authors. I'm not going to name all of them, but I will put the information in the description box. Um, there's a long list. So I'm not trying to be disrespectful or anything. I would never be disrespectful because I love science fiction and fantasy. So it says here that the Thieves' World anthologies were conceived by Robert Asprin and Lynn Abbey, who was his wife at the time, as well as Gordon R. Dixon, during a meeting at the Boston Science Fiction Convention uh, in 1978. Asprin suggested the task of world building was a major hurdle for modern fantasy writers. Um, So again, I'll put all of this in the description box. So that's Thieves' World. I think I had this book and then I let somebody borrow it and they never gave it back. And I really wasn't hurt by that because I never read it. It was like I bought it because it was a Robert Asprin book and then never got around to reading it. And here's the thing is one thing I remember about that is he's another one that had maps in his books. I mean, everybody remembers with Tolkien, bringing up Tolkien again. Uh, with Tolkien and even with to bring up another one, A. A. Milne with the Hundred Acre Wood. There's a lot of those that had maps of the worlds um that they created. Well, he did too. It was like within the first few pages, you saw this world, this world map. And and I believe that was the first Fool's World was one of them. Not Fool, we're not at Fool's World yet, but Thieves' World. So in 1978, now we're to the series that I want to talk about. It's called the Myth Adventure series. So I'm not going to get too far into it, but I'll give you a little um, uh it's 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 very comical, yes. It follows the magician of Skeev and this demon named Oz. And the first book is titled Another Fine Myth. I have it. And that's actually not the first um, book cover. I'll put it up here. I actually saw somewhere, I think it was at a collection shop, and they had that book, the original, and I didn't grab it, and I was so mad because I went to go back and get it, and it was gone. It's like, damn it. Okay, so illustrated originally by Frank Kelly Freas and later by Phil Foglio. Is this Phil's work? I wonder if it is. Does it say? Cover art by Walter Velez. So this, what year did this? I'm on the hunt. I have to know. What year was this released? Okay, so this one was released in 84. So, and the thing about this book, about this series, is that it is so rich with puns. I mean, just the title alone, Another Fine Myth. Oh, you get that throughout the, if you enjoy puns and dad jokes, I wouldn't even call them dad jokes, to be honest. I, I guess it depends on who reads it. I You'll probably eye roll and but I don't know. I don't I wouldn't consider me personally, I wouldn't consider them dad jokes, but I guess it all depends on who reads it. But it is so pun filled. It's hilarious. There's other things as well. It's not just the puns. It is just his humor really comes out in these books in this series. So so be prepared for that. But we'll get further into it later. And now there was a comic series that I mean this series was so popular uh when it came out. So it did get a comic book series, like a graphic novel series and everything, which I didn't know until I was reading up on this. And so and of course so the novels were adapted later as comic books by Foglio. There he is again. And then well, I'll talk about that later when I talk about yeah. Now in the 90s, I mentioned Fool's World. So in the 90s is when Fool's World came to be. And it I tried reading Fool's World. My friends loved Fool's World. But the thing is that I just couldn't get into them as much. See, my friends knew about Robert Asprin's work before I did, and um, because how I was introduced to the Myth series and Robert Asprin was my senior year of high school. We needed, for my Myth and Legends class, we needed a book to read because we were doing silent reading. Our second period class was like the longest class, and I I don't remember how long it was exactly. But anyway, so we would have like our 15 minutes of reading. And so the teacher wanted us to find a book that was like um mythical, that kind of thing, fantasy. And a book that I had chosen was so boring. And after I read the Odyssey, the Iliad and the Odyssey, I was trying to figure out, well, my friends suggested Robert Aspirin, Fool's World, or the Myth series. So I went looking for it, found the first book, and I couldn't put it down. And I had a friend in that class, and before class, we would be talking about the characters, and well, the teacher got interested, and I had finished the first book, had the second book. So she was reading the book during our silent reading and everything, and she says, I could get into this series. And so so that's how I became uh, a fan of Robert Aspirin and was introduced to his work. Uh, my friends already knew about. And but when I tried to step into Fool's World, which is a science fiction um, series, and you follow the Space Legion and you run around and with William Fool. And of course, it's another pun because it's PHULE. And so now he did take a break from writing. He had financial problems, and so there was like a hiccup in the 90s. I think it was like the mid 90s. He quit writing. And and then all of a sudden, early 2000s, he started he released a couple of books. It was so funny because I was in the bookstore and I'm like, wait, that's a new myth book. A brand new myth book. Oh my gosh. And, and yeah, so he was back writing again. And he actually paired up with people to write some of these books. So he was back writing the Fool's World. I think he called it Fool's Company. And so he had a partnership with somebody with Fool, and Jody Lynn Nye he paired up with. In fact, oh, let's see. Yeah, here's one of. So you see her name on there, and it continued until his passing. Now he did. Um, there was another series. I mean, he wrote other books, other series as well, and I'm not as familiar with them. But there was one that I I decided to try, and I read the first one, and I'll talk about it, and then we'll get into this series. Oh, what was it? What was it? What was it? Yeah, it was the Dragon series, Griffin McCandless Dragon series. This series follows this guy who lives in New Orleans, and um and he finds out that he's a dragon. He's like in human form, and then he finds out that he's a dragon. And I had the first book. It was called Dragon's Wild, and he has a hard time trying to understand. And it was like his sister always knew that she was, you know, and it was okay. It wasn't his best. And there were a couple of places that I don't know. I just had I was a little disappointed with how they played out, and which I've never been disappointed with Robert Asprin's work. So yeah, I don't have the book anymore. So, but don't go by me. Honestly, I've said that before. Um, Read it yourself, and so okay. So let's look at so that's Robert Asprin. Okay, he, he wrote all of these books. You know, he in fact. My brain glitched. I was going to say something and then, okay, let's talk about the myth series, which is what this video is about. So let's talk about the myth series. Of course, it is about him too, because he wrote the series, didn't he? Right, right. Give credit where it's due. So, first of all, this series, just to give you a clue, I have it here. How many are there? One, two, three, four. Because I don't have the entire set. I have them here, but I think there's like four that I don't have. Um, one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. So there's 21 in the series altogether. And I think I have 19. So there's only two that I don't have. Okay. So from 1978 to 2016, these books were released. Now, you do have to understand that there was that long hiatus. Um, in fact, what does it say here? I saw it. So 1993, and then the next one was 2001. So almost a decade. Almost. So in the first book, you have Skeeve. Okay, it starts off where Skeeve is this apprentice and he's learning magic from what was the guy's name? Garkin? I believe that was the guy's name. Garkin. Yeah, so this old Gandalf type fella is named Garkin, and he tells Skeeve to do this particular spell. You need to do this spell. So Skeeve does the spell, and there's this big flash, and this demon shows up. Well, Garkin dies. But it's like it's this whole thing of Garkin has the last laugh. You later find out the relationship, the full relationship between Garkin and this demon who is named Oz. A HZ. Now, oh, there's a oh, where is it? Um, there was a line here that just cracked me up. Um, so Oz is standing there in the room with Skeeve, and he suddenly finds out that he can't go back to where he was because the spell stripped him of his powers. So now he has to teach Skeeve. So now Skeeve is Oz's apprentice. Um, so it's in first person, and the first person, of course, is Skeeve. Uh, let's see. I'm trying to find this, give you kind of an idea of, okay. So he's standing there, Skeev is standing there and he's just having a freak out, you're a demon and, and Oz is like, yeah, in your world, but in my world, you're the demon, all this stuff. Chill out, kid. And finally, they introduce themselves, and he says, my name is Skeev. His grip was cold but firm, so firm, in fact, that I found it impossible to reclaim my hand as rapidly as I would have liked. Pleased to meet you, kid. I'm Oz. Again, Aahz. Oz? OZ. No relation. No relation to what? I asked, but he was examining the room again. So it's just play on words like that. Um, and now the the girl in the picture, this very attractive woman with green hair, she is an assassin. Now, if memory serves, her brother is like a leprechaun or and I can't remember if you meet him in the second book or the first book, but yeah, I can't remember if he's a leprechaun or a troll. And it's so funny because when you meet him and Skeev is just, he's like, how are you related? And 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 Oz is like, is it your first time ever meeting people? The characters that he makes up, there at one point there is a Vic who is a vampire, but he's afraid of darkness. Like he's afraid of everything, basically. And Masha, I think, is everybody's favorite. Masha is also a demon, and she dresses in these bright clothes. They don't match. Like her her outfit, like the blouse could be bright polka dots, orange and purple polka dots, and the trousers would be striped, white and blue striped. Her hair is always a different color. I think one of let's see, one of these should have her. Yes. Yes. That is Masha. And, and she has like the the lipstick and the fancy jewelry and but everybody loves her. I think everybody that reads the series absolutely loves her because she gets things done. She loves everybody. She cares for everybody. She's a fantastic. And of course, the gangster aspect. Oh, Nunzio and Guido. You saw the two gangsters behind her. Nunzio and Guido. You have a dragon, this baby dragon. He's just a baby. The only thing he can say is gleep. Okay, one of the books, it's one of my favorites, as if all of them aren't my favorite. The entire series is just ridiculously hilarious. Uh, yeah, this one right here. So Myth Inc. Link. Okay, while they're going through their little myth adventure, you end up in the minds of these characters. Every chapter is in the mind. So it goes outside the first person of Skeeve, and you're at one point in the mind of Masha. You're in the mind of Oz. You're in the mind of Tananda. Tananda is the name of the woman assassin with the green hair. You're at one point in the mind of Gleep. Okay, well, Gleep, again, can only say Gleep because he's a baby dragon. But when you're in the mind, it's like, think of SpongeBob, where Gary is like an intellectual when you're inside his mind, where he just says meow. But when you're inside his mind, he's like this massive intellectual. It's kind of along those lines. There's at one point where Nunzio and Guido end up in the military with Masha, and they meet this girl who is just a total badass, and her name is Spider. Okay, and she's just gonna she, and she ends up best friends with Masha. I'm telling you, the series is so well written. It is so funny. There's I think because there's like little teasers at the at the beginning of each one. And like for this one for Myth Conceptions, uh or no, it's Myth Ink Link, but it says well, I'm Masha, I said, and my partner over there is Vic. Hysterium nearly fell over his desk. I forgot about Hysterium. Again with the puns. With his eagerness to shake Vic's hand. My partner was dressed stylishly, if sedately by my standards, in a leisure suit with a turtleneck and ankle-high boots. His whole outfit was in soft earth tones, and it was clear the devil, Deveel, had him pegged as the normal member of the twosome. Call it a mischievous streak, but I couldn't let it stand at that. Actually, Vic isn't one of our regular staff. He's a freelancer we bring in occasionally as a specialist. A specialist? Are you an interior decorator? My partner gave him a tight smile. What Vic here is trying to say, I told the DeVille as casually as I could, is that he's a vampire. Um, I mean, I could go on and on and on. They have a bazaar at Deva, and in this bazaar, so many shenanigans happen. It's like this bazaar is so big that you get lost. It's like uh, every time, like the first few books, Skeeve gets lost. Every time you turn around, he gets, that's how we ended up with Gleep. There's like a fight that happens, and Oz has to get him out of this problem. And, but the last thing that I want to talk about, and then I'll close up because I know this is long. Like I said, I could go on and on and on about it. This is like my favorite series ever. I absolutely love it. I mean, the puns, every title, um, because again, it starts off with another fine myth, hit or myth directions, mythink in action, which is like Myth Incorporated, but they put it mythink in action, so missing in action. I mean, myth conceptions, mythnomers and imperfections. Missing persons. The list goes on. But uh oh, where is that one? Yes, this is the one. Okay. So in the story, there is a poker game. Okay. And in this poker game, this poker game is insane, as only you can expect from a fantasy. Little myth marker. Now, this little kiddo that you see on the cover, right there, she is named Marky. Okay, and she causes a lot of trouble. I believe, let's see. Um, yeah, even even if Skeeve can hold his own in a high stakes game, there's still Marky. Left as a pint-sized IOU by a player who went broke, she conjures a house full of trouble every time she tries to cast a spell. And on top, and to top it off, jealous magicians have hired the notorious assassin, the Axe, to cut more than the deck. Okay, so with Dragon Poker, this is uh, this. Don't try to figure it out. I would love to see a live action of people trying to play Dragon Poker. Read this book and then try to figure it out. Because what they do is it's like, I played this card on a Wednesday, but you're sitting over on my left side on a Wednesday and it's raining and it's just it is insane. Now Marky is one of those that's she like I said, like I read, but she's one that helps cheat. Okay, so she helps cheat, but she doesn't help skeeve. Okay, if memory serves, she's not there to help skeeve. Um, so when I read the book and when my brother read the book, and we're just sitting there like, what is this game? What is going on? 'Cause Dragon Poker just, it's like, screw the rules, there are none. 'Cause it's like, you can say, well, I played this card. Well, yeah, but you looked in that direction and I and that guy is sitting on your left and plus you're wearing purple on a Tuesday. For as much as people recreate other stuff, like the Harry Potter games and that kind of thing. And like the littlest thing that's in these movies and books, try that one. It will make your brain die. Every time I read the book, I'm just like, and it makes me wonder how long it took him to figure out that whole idea of dragon poker. Or maybe he was seasoned enough with this idea of, because I think this is the fifth book. I still have it up. Let's see. Because if memory serves, that is the fifth one, or maybe it's the sixth one. One, two, no. One, two, three, four, five. That's right. Missing Persons is the fifth one, and that's the sixth one. Yeah, he was pretty much in his element by that point. And he just, Robert was like, maybe he had a little kid at that point, and because it sounds so little kid. it when they get caught, hey, look, I remember being a little kid and trying to get myself out of situations, and it's like, well, no, you didn't see me because I'm invisible and because and this and that and blah blah. Kind of like in Mystery Men, where it's, hey, can you see me? Yeah, maybe you should put your pants back on. So anyway, in closing, this he's written other series. Um, I will put that information in the description box. This one, so full of puns. Be prepared for that. Like, Deville, devil, Devil. They're everywhere. And some of the names, like when I was reading that, I forgot that there is a person named Hysterium. I forgot what he does, but it's time to read the series again. It's my all-time favorite series. I mean, I can't say anything bad about the series. Um, it's funny how someone will pass away and someone will take over. Jules Verne, you can tell the difference from when his son took over, and I commend his son for you know, picking up where his dad left off and giving us these stories. He tried. He really did. The thing about these stories is that Judy Lynn Nye did a phenomenal job of continuing. It's seamless. I can't tell a difference between Robert's work and hers. So, where there's a change. So, I think that's fantastic. Um, so, but anyway, I'll close up here.